So, good morning everyone. So, I hope you had a wonderful Sunday. Just in our first session, Gedensthagel, I had discussed with you another type of writing, that is expository writing. So, in our former week, like the previous week, we discussed about descriptive writing and narrative writing. And for this week, we are going to tell you about another types of writing, that is expository writing and persuasive writing. So, since Gela had already started with his session on expository writing, so I'll be taking another topic, that is persuasive writing. So, prior to begin with my session, I just want to help you think about what we learned last week. In types of writing, we learned about descriptive writing, and Gedensthagel already kind of recapped and did the recap and review of descriptive writing. So, as far as narrative writing is concerned, I hope you remember, right? I told you about narrative writing in two forms, that is fictional and non-fictional narrative. So, I also gave you some examples of stories where you can see the type of narrative writing used, right? So, narrative, and I also remember telling you the word itself, the word narrative itself suggests that a sort of narration is happening, right? Someone is narrating something. So, it is about an event or maybe an incident or a kind of experience you had, right, when it comes to personal narrative, right. So, a narrative in the form of story also, I think I remember telling you, right, we did follow the whole writing process in order to write a story, because that is also one form of narrative writing, and that can be a real story as well as a fictional, something that is out of your imagination, a make-believe kind of story, right. And we also talked about other than personal narrative, we talked about story, and then we talked about a fictional narrative, isn't it? So, how the writer tries to narrate that thing, but what one important thing that you need to remember is whatever type of writing that you are doing, right, we need to follow, yes, what important thing should we follow? Writing process. Okay, we need to follow writing process, whether you are doing descriptive writing, whether you are doing a narrative writing, whether you are doing expository writing. So, whatever kind of writing you are doing, what you need to remember is you need to follow the writing process in order to make your writing better, right. So, it is not that you just start writing whatever comes to your mind and then you submit it without reading it again, without going through your write-up. See, step by step we need to follow the writing process, we need to do the pre-writing things, the planning stage, right, and then we need to follow the step, we need to do our first draft, then we need to revise, and we need to, yes, what next? We need to do the editing and proofreading before we submit, before we publish, right. So, we need to follow all these things, right. And in our previous session, Gedensthagel already discussed with you that there are different types of writing based on the purpose, right. People write because they have certain purpose. They write for some specific group, or the person may be writing for himself or herself. Like I told you, the diary entries that you make, right, you write it for yourself most of the time, isn't it? This is something that is between your diary and you. You want your diary to keep it secret, isn't it? So, and then you write stories or other piece of things that you want to share with your friends. So, what you need to remember is you need to remember your audience, you need to remember the purpose behind writing, and based on that your writing types can differ. Okay. So, all writings are not in the same way, isn't it? You find different types of writing based on the purpose. Is that clear? Okay. So, what we are going to do for this week, okay, in my sessions is persuasive writing. So, though it is in a way targeted for students of class 5 to 8, but in a way, right, I am going to kind of like in tomorrow's session, one of the session may not be for younger children like classes 5 and 6, right. So depending on that. So, but this particular session, since I'm going to discuss generally about what a persuasive writing is. So this is applicable for all classes, and even students reading in classes higher, right, 9, 10 and above, can also benefit from this, I feel. Okay, so persuasive writing. So if you look at the slide, so 4 main categories of writing that we have already discussed. Narrative writing is the one that I discussed with you in my previous sessions, right, last week. And Gitin Sithagela discussed with you about descriptive writing, and this morning Gitin Sithagela started his sessions on expository writing, which will continue, right, for tomorrow as well. And finally, out of the 4 main categories of writing, right, so the 4th one we are going to discuss is persuasive writing, and I am going to continue with persuasive writing for today and tomorrow. Okay, different types in a way. So this is just to help you get an idea about what you did last week, right? And I remember in my session last week when I did the introduction to writing types. So not just narrative, descriptive, expository and persuasive. I told you about some other types of writing like objective writing, subjective writing, creative writing and review writing, if you remember. And I told you that though there are many different types of writing, we are going to focus specifically on the 4 main categories, that is narrative, descriptive, expository and persuasive. Right. So narrative has already been covered, descriptive writing has already been covered. So this week Gitin Sithagela and we are both going to discuss expository and persuasive, right. Okay. Now what actually is a persuasive writing? So it is a type of writing in which the writer uses words to convince the reader that the writer's opinion is correct in regards to an issue. Okay, so the word persuade, okay, okay, persuasive writing. So persuasive comes from the word persuade. Okay, so persuasive writing here is used as noun and persuasive as the adjective. So persuade is the verb. Okay, so it means to convince. So in persuasive writing, what you are doing is you are trying to convince the reader or the other person to believe in your opinion, okay, or you may be telling the person to do something for you, right? You are persuading, you are convincing the other person, right? So if you can think of anything, any writing that you happen to see where the writer is kind of trying to convince you, trying to kind of persuade you. Do you see signboards? And where you can see some big ads written on boards. You see some sort of a brochure. So these are all trying to convince or persuade you, right? So you have product reviews as well. So writer's opinion correct regards to an issue. So whatever the issue, your opinion, you want the other person to listen to your or agree with your point or your opinion. Okay. It is all about trying to get the reader to agree with your opinion or ideas. That's why this type of writing is called persuasive, because the motive here is to persuade the other person. Okay. The objective here, okay, is the purpose here is to convince the other person, to persuade the other person, to make the other person listen to you or believe in you. It is a type of writing that states. So I have in a way referred to different websites in order to get a lot of ways in which we can state this, so that you get idea about the different ways in which you can think of a persuasive writing. Okay, not just with one definition. I've just tried to bring in more so that whatever looks more comfortable or easy for you, you can just refer to that, right? Okay, look at the slide. So, it is a type of writing that states the opinion of the writer and attempts to influence the readers, right? Your motive is to influence the readers so that they listen to you, they agree with your opinion. Okay? Its main purpose is to persuade the reader about something. So, what persuasive writing uses is emotions, okay, reasons and characters to persuade the readers. Okay. So, it uses emotions. Sometimes the persuasive writing can be very emotional. It appeals to your emotions and you start believing, okay, and listening. And sometimes the persuasive writing uses a lot of reasons and logics that makes the reader believe in what the writer has to say. And sometimes characters are used in order to kind of convince the readers. Okay. Okay, the appeal to reason I told you, then appeal to emotion. So, the persuasive writing can mainly be of three types. So, one that appeals to reason, right, using reasons, and then emotion and the appeal to character. But then what we need to remember is it does not mean that all persuasive writing can be either that is appealing to the reason or it can be either emotion or character. Sometimes all these can come together in one piece of persuasive writing. Okay. So, what actually is appeal to reason? Let us look at. This type of persuasive writing uses solid facts and proof to convince the reader that your arguments are strong, your opinion, your belief, your points, your point of view, whatever stance you are taking that are or that is true, right. So, here you need to have solid facts in order to prove, because this is based on reason, right, in order to convince your readers. So, here you can use facts based on numbers and charts, graphs, percentages, so that your persuasive writing becomes stronger. Okay, you have stronger points of argument. Okay. Then appeal to emotion. So, this type of persuasive writing is more appealing because people listen to their emotion more than their minds. I don't know how far you believe that, but usually like people often come in a kind of a dilemma where they have to decide based on their mind and their heart. It becomes really hard, right? Your mind says something and your heart says something, isn't it? So, your emotions sometimes overpower your mind. Sometimes your emotions overpower your ability to think, isn't it? So, sometimes this can be a very strong tool when you use emotions in your writing in order to convince the reader, okay, or the other person to listen to you. And then we have like a person's faith or imagination is used to persuade them to come to your side. So, in a way, like sometimes we say, isn't it, emotional blackmail, isn't it? We try to make the person emotional so that he or she listens to you, right? This is how often you do in class, isn't it? Sometimes you try to emotionally blackmail your teacher, or sometimes your teachers may try to emotionally blackmail you so that you listen to your teacher. Or you do that with your parents as well, isn't it? So, these are like your persuasive writing where you use your emotions. Okay. So, we have reason, we have emotions, and what next is appeal to character. So, in this type of persuasive writing, the persuader tries to show himself as person of character and uses his virtues to attain the mind of the reader. Little confusing for the younger children. Do you think this is little confusing? The persuader means the person who is writing that, okay, or speaking. Tries to show himself as a person of character and uses his virtues to attain the mind of the reader. So, to just make it simple, if you remember, or if you can think of celebrity endorsed ads. So, in television you often see ads, isn't it? if you can just think of any ad that you see, okay, advertisements, right, in television. Which example I should give? Okay, like superstars, right, Bollywood stars using the soap. If you can think of Lux, right. So you can see a lot of celebrities in a way promoting this product, okay, this soap. Can you think of the Bollywood stars? You can see they are just bathing in a bathtub using Lux, and then immediately what do you see? A kind of glow on their skin, and then what is this? Do you actually think the celebrities use Lux in their real life? What do they do? So they are trying to, because this is what the promoters, the owners, they do, right? They try to get the celebrities so that the readers, the viewers listen to them, because you have the thing, oh, Shah Rukh Khan is using Lux, right? I should use. Kareena Kapoor is using Lux. And so how beautiful she is. I'll also use Lux so that I can become like her. So this is all in a way trying to persuade the viewer, convince the viewer that this is a good soap to be used. So see, have you seen the owner of the Lux or the manufacturer of Lux shown in the television using Lux? No. Often what they use is they use celebrities, Bollywood stars, or you can say sports stars, isn't it, in order to promote the brands, isn't it? Trying to convince using character in a way, because you have because when you are a fan of that superstar or the sports star, you try to listen to him or her, isn't it? So this is one way. So that I just felt that even class 5-6 students can relate with that, right? And in like Gitin Sargila's session, he talked about Chota Bheem. So class 5 students, you must be watching Chota Bheem, and those in 6 and 7, you must have also watched Chota Bheem. So sometimes what happens, you feel like Chota Bheem eats that laddu, right, the sweet, and then what happens, he becomes stronger. So small children have the feeling that when you eat that, you become stronger. So this is in a way trying to convince, you are in a way kind of taken away by the things that are shown, isn't it? So this sort of writing, the script for advertisements, so are often persuasive, because the motive behind such a piece of writing is to convince the viewers to buy the product, isn't it? So this is in a way just an example which I think you can easily relate or resonate with, which you can easily understand, right? That's why I have used the example of television ads, right? Okay, so what else you need to remember? You look at the slide, okay? So I told you earlier, all 3 types of writing can be found included in one persuasive writing piece. It doesn't need to be a separate piece always. See, it doesn't need necessarily be one persuasive paragraph is all about reasoning, where it's all, see, it can be there, but it's not necessary that you have to just use only reason in one persuasive paragraph. You have to use only emotions in another persuasive paragraph, and then character. So it's not that. You can include all 3 together in one piece of persuasive writing. Okay, so this is because people don't just focus only on one point like logic, emotion, or character. So it's not that. So even when like I told you, even when in television ads, when you have the superstar or the film star or sports star kind of promoting brands and products, see, there also you are not using your appeal to the character only. You may use the emotion in a way if you feel more connected to the celebrity, right? Or sometimes you may use your reasoning as well. Sometimes the ads are written in such a way that people start thinking, oh, this might be very good. Not just character, they use reasoning as well in a way. They just tell you, right? These days you can see the manufacturers of soap, hand wash, they kind of promote their products, isn't it? But then what they are using? The situation that is prevailing these days, COVID-19, right? So you have, so the fear of coronavirus, the fear of getting infected is there. So the manufacturer tries to convince the viewer by using the hand wash, and in a way they just try to give you reason. When you wash your hands regularly, you are free from germs and all these things, isn't it? So you can think of all these persuasive piece of writing in that way, how the script writers, because the one who is acting right on the screen, they are not the one who is writing, isn't it? You have people who is writing backstage, okay, developing the script for the star, isn't it? So the script writer has to be very careful, because this sort of writing is all persuasive writing. You have to convince the viewer to listen to you. You have to convince, you have to make the viewer listen to you, that your opinion is right, your point of view is correct, and then you have to back up your opinion with reasons, facts. So you can do that in so many different ways. So persuasive writing you often see in speech. If you remember, some like you have politicians who are very good at giving powerful speech. We don't know how you can say how much they are actually implementing what they say, but you can see in movies also, right? Politicians giving speech, and people are like, oh, they just gets carried away in a way, because it's very persuasive in a way. So we need to identify, like, see, persuasive writing can be seen in speech, but then see, the things is the difference here is persuasive speech. There what you do is you can see the other person giving the speech, or if you are the one who wants to persuade, right, you are the one who wants to speak. So you have some plus points here. You have the advantage of using your body language, isn't it? Right, you can raise or in a way slow down your voice, isn't it? Voice modulation, your tone, these can in a way convince or make an impact on the listener, isn't it? Your body language you can use, right, other than the written script that you are going to speak. You can use your body language, you can modulate your tone, your voice, isn't it? And then you can use your expressions, your gesture. But when it comes to writing, the problem is the readers, they are not able to see you, isn't it? So what you need to be very careful about is your points need to be very strong, okay? And because like you are not able to show your physical appearance, your gesture, your body language, but your written piece should show the readers rather than telling. Okay, you have to convince the reader. So there you need to be very specific about what word choice, isn't it? What sort of word you are using. So you have to be very choosy. Which word is more strong? You have to choose that, right? So, and for that, what you need to remember is follow the writing process. Okay, I keep telling this because this is a fact. You need to follow the writing process. That makes your final written piece much better. Right? You can just compare writing a persuasive paragraph without following the writing process, and then another one, okay, following the writing process, and then you will see the difference, which one looks much better. Right? Step by step, if you go through the writing process, your writing piece will be much better, more appealing to the reader. Okay. So you need to remember that. So persuasive writing can often be seen in speech, it can be seen in advertisements like I told you, okay. You usually see this sort of persuasive writing in advertisement. You also see this sort of writing in reviews. How many of you remember I discussed about when we talked about introduction to writing types? Do you remember when I told you about review writing? So when you write review for your books, right? Book review, then you have a review on movies and films, right? So these are also kind of persuasive. Okay, because in book review you persuade your friends, your classmates or your colleagues to read the book. You tell that this is a very good book and then you give reasons, isn't it? Because illustration is like this, you have this as characters and it gives a very good lesson. So you have all your reasons and then in a way you are trying to convince your classmates or your friends to read this book. So this is a type of persuasive writing. Or movie reviews. You give reviews so that other people also watch that movie. You tell that this happened in the story, it's so interesting, and then you kind of give reason. So this is another type of persuasive writing. Okay, so review of like book, or you have movies. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, so book review or review on movies, right? This is one. And then you have a brochure. Sometimes when you visit a new place, you have tourist brochure, right? And then you have that description of different places of interest where you can visit in order to try to persuade the tourists or the visitors in a way, right? So you have that sort of thing. And then you have persuasive writing that you can see in speech as well, right? I told you in speech what the speaker tries to do. The speaker tries to convince the listener, isn't it? Tries to persuade the listener with his or her point of view. So persuasive writing can be seen in different format, right? It can be in the form of letters as well. Do you remember writing a letter to your parents or a relative in order to persuade him or her about something, or maybe a letter to a friend, if you can think of? Do you remember any such incident where you have written a letter? See, what happens is you have written a lot of things, right? You have written letters, essays, articles, but you may not be knowing that you were doing a kind of persuasive writing, right? So did you get my point? You may have written letter to convince your parents. You may have written letter to parents asking for something, and then you have your reasons to justify your stance. Okay, so that your parents listen to you, but you may not be knowing at that point of time that you were actually doing a persuasive writing. Now I feel you can just think of, last time like I did that. I wanted my elder sister to give me this, so I wrote a very emotional letter to her so that your elder sister listens to you. This is one kind of persuasive writing. Okay, so you can think of, right? So what else? Okay, we need to remember, look at the slide. So, okay, so here I am just going to give you a sample of a persuasive paragraph or persuasive writing that would in a way make it easier for you to connect. Okay, so and then please look at the highlighted part as well, because these are very important. Okay, I feel that an important aspect of the practice of generosity is to take joy in it. For example, in the classical Indian tradition, there is a custom of dedicating acts of generosity to a higher altruistic goal. This helps ensure that generosity is not blind or driven by partiality or bias, but it is directed toward the greater good of all humanity. Moreover, the custom of dedication also allows the giver to rejoice in the act of giving. Okay. In my opinion, taking joy in giving is very helpful, since it makes us more inclined to engage in similar acts of kindness and charity in future. The great thing about giving is that it not only benefits the recipient, but also brings profound benefits to the joy giver. And the more one gives, the more one enjoys giving. and this excerpt or paragraph I have taken from the book Beyond Religion by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Now let's look at the paragraph again. Okay, so I have made, or you can say the whole paragraph is taken as it is, except that I have added this phrase, for example, okay, and then moreover here. Okay, rest it is as it was written in the book. I felt that this is a very good piece for persuasive writing, right? So I feel that because here His Holiness is expressing his opinion, his feelings, right? I feel that an important aspect of the practice of generosity, this particular extract is titled The Joy of Giving. Okay, the title is The Joy of Giving. So His Holiness is trying to make the readers understand that there is joy in giving, right? An important aspect of the practice of generosity is to take joy in it. So when you give something to someone, you have to rejoice, you have to take joy in it. So His Holiness is supporting his point by giving the example. I have added this particular phrase, for example, here. Actually, it's not there in the book. It started from in the classical Indian tradition, but I deliberately added it here so that it becomes more clear to you, right? So in the classical Indian tradition, so he is giving example, evidence, okay, that in the classical Indian tradition there is a custom of dedicating acts of generosity. Whenever you do something good for others, you give something to others, so you dedicate that act, you don't take the credit yourself, so you dedicate the act to a higher altruistic goal, right? I hope you all understand altruistic goal. So if you remember, altruism is like taking the other person more important or precious than yourself, right? Altruism. So altruistic goal means the goal is the noun here, and altruistic here becomes the adjective. What sort of goal? A goal where the other person is given more importance, okay, given kept at a higher place than you, okay. So this helps ensure that, so His Holiness has his stance, point of view, and this is backed up or supported by evidence and reasons, you can see here. This helps ensure that generosity is not blind or driven by partiality or bias. It's not that you are generous to someone you are close to and you neglect the other person you are not close to, right? There's no partiality or bias. It is directed toward the greater good of all humanity. See, keeping all humanity in one space. It's not that he is close to me, she is not close to me, like that, okay? So this is one evidence. And then see the second reason or point, right? Moreover, okay, I have added this particular word moreover, okay. The custom of dedication also allows the giver to rejoice in the act of giving, right. So when you have that, if you dedicate your act of generosity towards like to a higher altruistic goal, so you have, it gives you a chance to rejoice in your act of giving. And in my opinion, taking joy in giving is very helpful, okay. So in my opinion, I don't remember, I think I have added or not, okay. So joy in giving is very helpful. Now the statement here is taking joy in giving is very helpful. Now if you take this as a separate paragraph, okay, this can be my thesis statement or the topic sentence, okay, if this is a separate paragraph. Okay, mark my word, I am telling you, if this is taken as a separate paragraph, this particular phrases like taking joy in giving is very helpful. This can be my thesis statement or my topic sentence. Okay, and then I will justify why. Okay, taking joy in giving is very helpful. Now, okay, now you need to prove it. You cannot just tell that, okay, this is helpful. You have to reason, you have to justify your stance. Okay, the reasons are since it makes us more inclined to engage in similar acts of kindness and charity in future. Because see, when you enjoy doing something, right, when you play, okay, say suppose you played a basketball match, right, and you enjoyed a lot. So what will you do? You will try to play again, isn't it? So the things that you enjoy, you keep doing again and again, isn't it? The thing that you do not enjoy, you stop doing it, you don't do it, isn't it? So when you take joy in giving, so what will happen is you are bound to engage in such acts of kindness and charity, because this gives you joy. Okay. So, similar acts of kindness and charity in future. So, that is why it is very helpful if you take joy in giving rather than crying, okay, I have to give my money, now what should I do? If you feel sad, say you just donated something, you gave a sort of amount of money to a beggar, and then you feel like, oh God, I have given that, now what should I do? You are not happy. Say suppose you gave 20 rupees or maybe 50 rupees to a beggar, and then you are not very happy. So, what would you do? Next time you will never think of giving a 50 rupee note or maybe 20 or donating something in charity, because the act that you did didn't give you any joy. So, you will not do it, right. So, when you enjoy, when you try to take a joy in the act of generosity, the good thing is that you will try to indulge in such acts in future also, because it gave you joy. Isn't it? Okay, now let us look at the paragraph again. So, the great thing about giving is that, again another reason to tell that or justify. Okay, the great thing about giving, that is why I have highlighted. The great thing about giving is that it not only benefits the recipient is the person who receives, okay, is that it not only benefits the recipient, but also brings profound benefits to the joy giver. So, it is a win-win factor, right. Both sides are kind of winner, right. The one who is giving is also benefiting because he is getting the joy, he or she is, right. And the other one, the recipient, the one who is receiving, is also benefited. Okay. So, it is a very good thing, isn't it? And the more one gives, the more one enjoys giving. So, this is in a way, this summarizes in a way, the more one gives, the more one enjoys giving. So, the statement here kind of summarizes the whole paragraph. So, one should keep on giving, right. One should enjoy, one should take joy in the act of giving, right. So, in a way, this is a sort of persuasive writing, because the readers, whoever reads this, kinds of think about it, oh, and then the reader might indulge in the act of giving, right, and dedicating it to the higher altruistic goal. So, this in a way I felt is a good example of persuasive writing that you can easily see. So, that is why I have taken this, and with all my due respect to His Holiness, I did a little addition here so that this becomes more appealing to you in order to suit my purpose here. That is why I have to do that. Okay, and I like in a way apologize, because trying to kind of play, not play, I cannot say, trying to not keep the original paragraph as it is, though the whole thing is as it is, except I had just added one phrase and a word. Okay. So, I just hope that in a way you kind of understood what persuasive writing actually looks like. So, we have more sessions to cover in a way that where your understanding about persuasive writing will broaden. Okay. So, this is all for this session, and in the third session, in I think in a couple of minutes, Kedins Thargila will continue with his session on expository writing. So, see you all in the fourth session. Thank you.